All right, sticking with the Binance settlement for our main story. Right after the news conference held by the DOJ, the U.S. Treasury Department, and CFTC yesterday, I spoke with Stephen Lubka, head of private clients at Swan Bitcoin, about all the developments involving the crypto exchange. He also weighs in on what's next for Binance and the industry as a whole. We learned that Changpeng Zhao pleaded guilty to violating the Bank Secrecy Act and is stepping down from his role as CEO of Binance. The DOJ, U.S. Treasury Department, and CFTC announced an agreement with Binance over alleged money laundering and sanctions violations. The crypto company must now pay $4.3 billion in penalties and forfeitures. What was your reaction to these developments involving Binance, and what does it signal to the crypto industry?
Yeah, so on one hand, it's not surprising that these charges were brought to Binance. I think in the industry, in my position, the idea that Binance was going to escape scot-free or that CZ was going to get off without any charges seemed extremely unlikely. That being said, this is in some capacities somewhat of a win for Binance in that they continue to operate, the company will continue to operate, and CZ is not going to jail. So those are definitely some variables which could have been on the table that were not. It's a financial settlement, not so much. Now, there could still be new information. The DOJ is going to come into Binance and they're going to be going through their books and they're going to have compliance officers in there for the next 2 to 3 years. So there could be more information that comes to light. But at this stage, it seems kind of more of like a middle ground between both extremes.
Now, during a news conference, we heard Attorney General Merrick Garland say that Binance failed to comply with federal laws and pretended to comply. He said Binance prioritized its profits over the safety of the American people. Now, during that same news conference, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said Binance knowingly evaded U.S. laws and pointed to critical gaps in anti-money laundering practices. She said that Binance instructed staff to withhold information from law enforcement. She added that Binance failed to report suspicious transactions involving illegal narcotics and terrorism. She pointed to more than 100,000 transactions associated with terrorist groups, including Al-Qaeda and ISIS. She said that Binance processed transactions but never filed a single suspicious activity report. What do you think about those statements and Binance's alleged role in supporting illicit activities, including terrorism?
Yeah, so I think two things there. One is, that's not surprising in many ways. I mean, Binance was known to not be the most compliant company in the world, right? Like these are not shocking claims or revelations. But there is one thing we should be careful though of conflating this, which is Binance's activity, with these larger claims and narratives that commonly get proposed that Bitcoin or other crypto assets are such a huge problem for crime and illicit activity. When you look at the statistics, it's at like a fraction of 1% of all Bitcoin transactions have anything to do with illicit activity, and the totals across Bitcoin and even other digital assets, it is a very small part. It is so much smaller. The use of the dollar in illicit activity dwarfs the total sum of all financial crimes committed with Bitcoin or committed with other crypto assets. So it's important to hold both of those, that yes, Binance was a bad actor, but this shouldn't be used as evidence, in my opinion, that, it's some, referendum on Bitcoin.
Now, Treasury Secretary Yellen said Binance must report suspicious transactions it failed to report to date and establish an effective anti-money laundering program. Do you think everything she outlined is enough for people to trust Binance again after all of these revelations involving the crypto exchange?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I don't think that trust is going to come rushing back. And I also think Binance is going to lose users over this. I think there is a portion of their users that selectively used Binance because of lax compliance. And with more robust compliance, I think those users will probably go elsewhere.
Another big story, Fidelity recently joined the race for a spot Ether ETF. The move follows BlackRock's proposed spot Ether ETF, and both firms are also waiting to hear whether they'll get approved to launch spot Bitcoin ETFs. We also recently learned that the SEC pushed decisions on the spot ETF proposals from Franklin Templeton and Global X to next year. What do you think will happen with all those applications? Do you think they'll actually get approved? And if they do, what will it mean for the crypto industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a 90% plus probability that we see a spot Bitcoin ETF approved in Q1 of next year. I think we're quite close. I think those firms have been going back and forth with the SEC. They've been in dialogues. They've been updating their filings. That's not something we've seen before. So previously, the SEC just denied the applications, but currently we're seeing those companies talk with the SEC, revise the filing, talk with the SEC, revise the filing. There's a back and forth going on there that's new and hasn't happened before. It makes me quite confident we're going to see that approval, as well as obviously the big names that are backing these things. I think the Ether ETF is much more speculative that approval happens in the same time frame, given some of these securities complaints. But I do think the Bitcoin ETF is very likely to be approved. And I think it's an important moment for the industry. There's two categories here. There is the kind of what I'd call like the mechanical category of X number of dollars go into that vehicle and buy Bitcoin. And that number's in the billions. So that drives up the price. There's just new dollars that couldn't access it before or wouldn't access it before that come in and buy it. But then there's kind of this other category where many investors will see this as a regulatory blessing. It'll say, okay, Bitcoin is okay here. The SEC has clearly said that Bitcoin is okay. They have approved the spot Bitcoin ETF after years or a decade even of denying it, close to a decade for various reasons. And so the average investor is going to think, okay, those concerns must have been resolved. Therefore, like Bitcoin has been de-risked. So I do see it as an important moment for the industry.